You sit in a room for 6 years making something, and you have the wildest dreams version of how you think a show will be received, and we're experiencing that. So we're just trying to hang on while we can. I started writing this in 2008 while I was still in my show in the Heights. Right. I was on my vacation, my first vacation from the show, and I picked up Ron Chernow's book at random at Borders, just knowing that he died.
Saw it there and said, "I'll take this one."
Just said it had great reviews on the back, and I knew he died in a duel, so I knew it was going to have a banging ending, and fell in love with the story. Really, the Dickensian nature of Hamilton's life, almost from the first and second chapter.
Explain that, because there's a point in which you say Dickens, Dickens, and Dickens. Yeah. You know, what was the Dickensian aspect of his life?
Alexander Hamilton was born in Nevis, possibly out of wedlock. He was his father split by the time he was 10 years old. His mother died in bed with him a few short years later. His brother was apprenticed, so he was by himself to a blacksmith, so he was by himself. He got sent to live with a cousin after his mother's death. The cousin killed himself. And then he got put in charge of a trading charter. He was a clerk for a trading company that traded sugarcane and rum and slaves. They're at the key point of the triangle trade down there in St. Croix. And he rode his way off the island. There was a hurricane that had ravaged St. Croix, and he wrote a poem about it, describing the carnage, saying that he saw sights that would strike astonishment into angels. This poem was used for relief efforts for the island, and people took up a fund to get him an education in New York.
Okay, so here we have a character who, a great American. We know there's drama that he dies at the end of a duel, of which he may not have, in fact, fired his gun.
Yeah, there's lots of different
speculation
opinions
about
on that.
that. All right. So here we have that story, but you have translated into so much more. I mean, tell me about the ideas that you want to pour into this to make it a new look at the Founding Fathers, the American experience, and a different way of presenting it that would appeal to young people because you're peopled by young actors.
Well, you know,
diversity.
I mean, you speak to what we were really conscious of, which is how do we eliminate any distance between our story and now? Yeah. We know that the story was going to be set then, but we knew it was going to sound like now. And we knew that fundamentally this is a country that was founded and created by immigrants. Somebody in all of our lines stepped off a boat or some form of transportation, put their foot down on this soil, and went to work. And so as we started thinking about taking the inspiration from Ron's book, we thought, okay, here are a lot of events, but we have to tell a story. So we had all of the events laid out. We sort of both read the book and made our own timelines. And then we would compare. Hey, this really spoke to me. Hey, this moment feels like it's essential. And so then you have those things to build around. But it just became so apparent early on as we were really designing how the show could function that this idea of doubling characters, for instance, felt really right on. That the character who played Lafayette, one of his great friends...
Also plays Jefferson.
Also plays Jefferson, of course. They both have this connection to France. They both have this relationship, one antagonistic, one supportive. And so how can we make the audience feel like who they are and what they understand is actually not so different from what these people were struggling with?
Hip-hop seems like a genius stroke now, but that's what you knew.
That's the first thing I checked, by the way. So I read 2 chapters of this book and I go, someone's already done a hip-hop version of this, because it felt to me the quintessential hip-hop narrative. This is someone who grew up in hard times and wrote his way out of his circumstances, wrote his way towards a better life. And that is the hip-hop narrative from the South Bronx in the 70s to today. And so I Googled Hamilton hip-hop musical.
And
now if you Google
it was not there.
And it was not there. And so thank God now you Google it, you'll see my show. But I really, that was the first thing that jumped out at me was this is a fundamental hip-hop story.
The lyrics go, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Charlie Rose is rapping.
I hope we're rolling on this.
We're rolling on everything. But you performed that at the White House, right?
Yeah. I performed the opening number at the White House, actually, the Alexander Hamilton, the opening number of the show. Yeah.
Before we see that,
yes.
Is that what the president responded to when he said Geithner should see this?
Yeah. Yeah, I told them. I told the assembled audience. This was my first time performing the song in public.
Yeah.
They had asked me to perform something from In the Heights, and I said I have 16 bars about the first Treasury Secretary,
Yes.
and they allowed me to close out the show with that. And his response was, "Somebody got to get Geithner in here," because he
thought of Geithner as a Hamilton, or
yeah.
what?
Well, I think he had a quote at that time, because the economic crisis everything had just blown up, and he said Geithner's got the hardest job as Treasury Secretary since Alexander Hamilton. I think that was his quote on the record about what Geithner had ahead of him. And this was very early in Obama's administration. We performed in May of 2009. So, they were just figuring out how to do this thing, how to get us out of the hole we were in. So I think he was tickled by the fact that I'd made a Treasury Secretary sing, and I think he wanted to show his Treasury Secretary.
and that song was from Burr's perspective at that point. So he also performed it from Burr's point of view. So it got a laugh about halfway through.
Now, where did that idea come? Aaron Burr's perspective.
Well, honestly, I look to musical theater history. We have a great tradition, thanks to Andrew Lloyd Webber, of the antagonist narrating the story. Judas narrates Jesus Christ Superstar. Right. Che narrates Evita.
Yes.
And so that was immediately where I went. That set up the very difficult task for me of figuring out who Aaron Burr is, who is, as we say in the show, a villain in our history. He is known as the guy who shot Hamilton.
More of him.
I do, after learning a lot about his life, and I had to find my way in because there are a lot of biographies of Burr. Well, there are several biographies of Burr.
Write one, a novel.
Gore wrote a historical fiction novel.
Right.
His Burr's a lot craftier than mine, but one of the things I learned about Burr was he's an early feminist. I mean, his daughter received an education greater than any man of that era. He was very close with his wife and with his daughter. He was on the Manumission Society with Alexander Hamilton for the abolition of slaves in New York City, in New York State, and so there are redeeming characteristics to this guy. I had to find my way into that because every biography either is insanely defensive of him or vilifies him.
But they were different in the following way, which you know better than anybody. Explain to me, because on the one hand, Aaron Burr was amazingly cautious, careful, laid back. Alexander Hamilton wanted to charge forward at every moment.
Yes. Hamilton left behind 27 volumes of written work. Burr left behind less than 2. Yeah. And I think that sort of tells you everything you need to know about how much Burr reserved the right to change his mind about any position he had at any particular point. And the tragedy of the show is, at the moment when Burr is finally reckless and lets go, and Hamilton is cautious and throws away his shot, one kills the other. And that's how they're remembered forever.
And, one of the things that we were talking
together forever.
And I think Hamilton knew they would be bound forever, and whether that would ensure his legacy as someone who then had to be spoken about. But, he'd become slightly obsolete at that point in his life. This is someone who had thought about death so often in his life, and here he was towards the end, not empowered, not able to affect change in that way. And we talked very early on, and I think, again, it's to the credit of the writing and to Leslie Odom, who plays Burr. We said, we've seen a lot of stories about two enemies who shoot at each other. Let's make a story about two people who were very dear and complex friends, and one of them kills his friend.
Who are soldiers, lawyers, statesmen together. They
admiring of each
students,
other.
Yes.
Yeah. You thought about playing Burr?
Yeah, every time I wrote a Burr song, I said, man, I should play this guy. I mean,
Because he was the narrator, or because?
Because he gets all the best songs in the show. And as you'll see, Leslie is, now you watch the show, you can't imagine me playing the role because it really fits Leslie like a glove. Yeah. But he gets these wonderful moments. One of my favorites being The Room Where It Happens, where he is talking about not being in power and seeing Hamilton trade away the capital in exchange for his financial plan and being like, how am I not in this room? How am I not in the room where it happens?
Take a look at this. This is you at the White House in 2009 performing the first rap song you wrote for Hamilton. Here it is.
How does a bastard orphan son of a whore and a Scotsman dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar? The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14, they had placed him in charge of the trade and charter, and every day while slaves were being slaughtered or carted away across the waves, our Hamilton kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter. Then a hurricane came and devastation reigned, and our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said, this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world is gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton. His name is Alexander Hamilton, and there's a million things he hasn't done, but just you wait, just you wait. When he was 10, his father split, full of it, debt-ridden. 2 years later, see Alex and his mother bedridden, half dead, sitting in their own sick, the scent thick, and Alex got better, but his mother went quick. Moved in with a cousin, the cousin committed suicide, left him with nothing but ruined pride, something new inside, a voice saying, Alex, you gotta fend for yourself. He started retreating and reading every treatise on the shelf. There would have been nothing left to do for someone less astute. He would have been dead and destitute without a cent of restitution. Started working, clerking for his late mother's landlord, trading sugar cane and rum and other things he can't afford, scamming for every book he can get his hands on, planning for the future. See him now as he stands on the bow of a ship headed for a new land. In New York, you can be a new man. The ship is in the harbor now, see if you can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies destroyed his rep. America forgot him, and me, I'm the damn fool that shot him.
There you go. It's unbelievable.
Thanks.
Could this ever have been done? I mean, it's almost like if they didn't have hip-hop, it had to be invented and created for this.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Thank you. That means a lot. You know, there's a lot of, I think the score is both a love letter to both hip-hop and musical theater. There's a lot of references to both embedded throughout. But you're right, it is this heightened language. And we learned really early on in the process of making it that anytime we dipped into ordinary speech, into prose, energy just kind of went out. Like we kind of had this ball that we throw in the air so high at the top with this opening number that we kind of have to keep it at that level a lot of the show. And there's a lot of times when we take musical breaks and slow it down and speed it back up again, but this heightened language seemed to be the only way to sort of convey Hamilton's worldview.
Did you once say that Hamilton reminds you of Tupac?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he... in that he embodies so many contradictions. He is both thoughtful and boisterous. He is both brilliant and self-destructive in certain ways. You know, he'd get into fights that, in retrospect, why are you fighting with that guy? And that's what I think when I think about Tupac's life, who was so brilliant and embodied so many different things to so many different people. I think Hamilton carries that many contradictions with him.